Welcome everybody, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel, hit the subscribe button so that you can stay up to date on everything. And for everyone watching, leave me a comment. Let me know your thoughts so that we can create a musical dialogue together. All right, this is the best albums of 1991 Hard Rock and Metal Edition. If you've watched my other two from 1989 and 1990, you know that I set up some criteria to help narrow everything down. And that criteria is, it had to be a career-defining album, assist in industry-changing ramifications, and the sound and style of the album had to stand apart from the masses at the time. But I've added a fourth bit of criteria to this one because there were just so many great albums of 1991 that it really needed something else to help limit it. And so the album itself had to thrive despite the changing musical climate. And I've got 10 honorable mentions, and the reason these 10 didn't make it is for that last bit of criteria right there, but they're fantastic albums. I wanted to make you aware of them and also just let you know I'm aware of these, as these are some of my favorite albums by these bands. We got Dangerous Toys and Hellacious Acres. We're listening to this right now. Britny Fox and Bite Down Hard, my personal favorite of theirs. Bullet Boys and Freak Show, a great follow-up to their debut. Kicks and Hot Wire, my personal favorite album of theirs. Enough's Enough and Strength, my personal favorite of theirs. Junkyard 6s, 7s, and 9s, a really great hard rock blues band. Taiketo, Don't Come Easy, some really great melodic rock. The Scream, Let It Scream, featuring John Corabi, who would later go on to front Motley Crue for their self-titled release in 1994. David Lee Roth, A Little Ain't Enough, again my personal favorite of his albums. And White Lion, Main Attraction, just a really great one out of their catalog. And so all those really could have been in the top 10, but again, with that criteria that I set, I was able to narrow it down to the top 10 that we're going to do for the best albums of 1991, Hard Rock and Metal Edition. Coming in at number 10, we've got LA Guns and Hollywood Vampires. This is their third studio album. And a really cool thing here, the cover of it, if you can see, has a little red and blue around their heads and stuff. They made it 3D and then provided you with a pair of viewing glasses to be able to take a look at it. That's the old way to view 3D. This album moved away from the pure sleaze rock style that they were used to on their two previous albums and developed a much more maturing style. And despite glam metal's declining popularity at the time, the band actually remained quite popular well into 1992, and still being invited to perform at MTV's Beach House Party, which was a really big deal at the time. It actually helped propel their third single, It's Over Now, to number 62 on the Billboard Hot 100, becoming a sizable hit for them. And while the album itself didn't receive any awards to it, I think it was a great transitional album between the glam metal world and the new sound that was taking hold. All right, coming in at number 9, we've got Great White and their album Hooked. It was their 5th studio album and follow-up to the double platinum album Twice Shy. The original album art on this was actually deemed too risque, and after the first pressing it had to be edited. So the original album art is this, and now relegated to the inside cover, and that's of course being the final art where they have the girl submerged below the water there. The sound of the band is a really great straight-ahead hard rock sound. Unfortunately, they got tagged with the hair band moniker and they weren't really able to break away from that afterwards. But the album itself still featured 3 really big hits, Call It Rock and Roll, Desert Moon, and Can't Shake It. And the album itself was certified gold. Coming in at number 8, we've got Sabotage and the album Streets, also known as Streets, a rock opera that was pushed on them by the record label. 6th studio album by them, and last to feature original vocalist John Oliva. It was a concept album that talked about the rise and fall of a rocker named D.T. Jesus. And while the album itself is not overly successful, it became a forerunner to the band Trans-Siberian Orchestra that would become very huge and have a lot of success. And I think this album itself helped pave the way for a resurgence in symphonic rock albums as well as ones that would tell a deeper story. All right, coming in at number 7, Mr. Big and the album Lean Into It. This band was one of the first supergroups out there. It featured Billy Sheehan coming from David Lee Roth's solo band, Paul Gilbert coming from Racer X, Pat Torpey coming from Impellitteri, and Eric Martin having had a solo career before this. It was their 2nd studio album and featured the really big single To Be With You, which went all the way to number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1992. And remember, 1991, grunge and alternative are breaking, so for a band to do this in 1992 when all that was going on was a pretty big deal. Their follow-up single, Just Take My Heart, was a top 40 hit as well, going to number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100, and the album itself was certified platinum. All right, coming in at number 6, we've got Skid Row and Slave to the Grind. This album displayed a much heavier sound than their debut album did, really showing that a band could change with the times. The album holds the distinction of being the first heavy metal album to enter the Billboard charts at number 1. It sold 134,000 copies in its first week to be able to do that. And it featured 3 really big, genuine hits off of it. Monkey Business, Slave to the Grind, and Wasting Time. Ultimately, the album was certified double platinum. And a side note here, at the time the band took out on the road for their Slave to the Grind World Tour, the bands Pantera and Soundgarden, 2 bands that are not typically associated with what Skid Row are, but of course would become much bigger later on. All right, coming in at number 5, can't believe we're already at the top 5 here. Rush, Roll the Bones, my personal favorite of their career. It's their 14th studio album and a return to commercial success for them, reaching number 3 on the Billboard 200. Their last or highest charting album before that was Moving Pictures in 1981. This album featured 6 singles off of it, 3 of them really standout tracks: Dreamline, Roll the Bones, and Ghost of a Chance. Another cool thing of note is that the instrumental song Where's My Thing was nominated for a Grammy at the time, but unfortunately lost to Eric Johnson and his song Cliffs of Dover. And if you don't know Eric Johnson or that particular song, do check it out. I think it was a worthwhile one to win for that Grammy. The album itself was certified 1-time platinum. All right, coming in at number 4, we've got Van Halen and For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, or simply known as FUCK when abbreviated. It's their 9th studio album and 3rd to feature vocalist Sammy Hagar. The album itself debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. Ted Templeman returned as a producer for them. He hadn't worked with them since 1984. The album title was a way of pushing censorship at the time, which was a really big issue, hence the abbreviation being FUCK. It featured 4 really big hits off of it, including the monster hit, the song Right Now, which was seemingly everywhere at the time when it came out. Had a really cool music video that had little things that popped up on it and saying, right now someone's doing this, and right now this is happening. Brought a lot of cool awareness to things, and the video itself actually won a number of awards as well. The album itself was certified 3 times platinum. All right, number 3, Ozzy Osbourne and No More Tears. This is his 6th studio solo effort, but 14th studio album overall if you count the 8 Black Sabbath albums. And it featured 4 huge singles off of it. Number 28 song, Mama I'm Coming Home. And then the album itself featured 4 songs co-written by Lemmy of Motorhead. And the song I Don't Want to Change the World actually won a Grammy, which is pretty cool. Now, following the completion of the tour for this album, Ozzy would actually retire, but would return a few years later in 1995 with the Retirement Sucks tour. The album itself was certified 4 times platinum, and pretty amazing to be doing that so late in Ozzy's career at the time for his 14th studio album. All right, we're coming into the top 2 here. Either of these bands could have been number 1 on here. I'm sure you guys will have your own opinions about it, but for me, number 2 album of 1991 was Metallica's Black Album. It's their 5th studio album, which debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200. It marked a change in musical style and was a more commercial period for the band. The album featured 5 huge singles off of it, every one of them becoming a classic song. Enter Sandman actually reached number 16 on the Billboard Hot 100. And again, just remember the times, because those were not the kind of songs that were typically in the top 40. And then songs like Unforgiven and Nothing Else Matters were also top 40 singles. The album itself won a Grammy and is largely considered one of the greatest albums of all time. The album itself has spent 550 weeks on the charts, second only to Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon, which has spent over 900 weeks on the charts. The album itself has been certified 16 times platinum and holds the distinction of being the best-selling album of the SoundScan era, which started in 1991, and that's the thing that counts all the albums and everything. Sure, there's albums that in all have sold more, but those albums came out before 1991. All right, and in at number 1, I don't think this is any shock to anyone, especially since Metallica came in at number 2. Guns N' Roses and their two albums, Use Your Illusion 1 and Use Your Illusion 2. They were considered one album, but were split for marketing purposes by the label. It's their second full-length album. Of course, if you don't count the EP Lies, because that only had 4 original new songs on it at the time. The album debuted at number 1 and number 2 respectively on the Billboard 200 charts. That was one of the first time that a band ever had 2 albums debuting in the top position. Each album selling around 700,000 copies in order to be able to do that in the first week alone. The album was a turning point for the band in maturing and expanding on their aggressive hard rock style that they started on the debut album, Appetite for Destruction. Featured 5 singles off Use Your Illusion 1 and 3 singles off of Use Your Illusion 2. Each album was ultimately certified 7 times platinum for a total of 14 million copies sold, which is a pretty amazing thing and really good that the marketing department decided to separate it. Otherwise, they might have only made 7 million sales. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm sure you guys got your own top 10 lists. Let me know your thoughts. What should have been number 1? Totally open to that, as we all have our own opinions here. So leave me a comment, let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye-bye.